welcome to EuroPCR 2026. I'm Ole de Bakker. I'm a structural interventional cardiologist working in Copenhagen, Rigshospitalet in Denmark, and I have the pleasure and honor to be here with Dan Blackman, friend and colleague, I may say, from Leeds, working in the UK. So today we're going to talk about a topic which is really clinically super relevant, how to deal with coronary artery disease and coronary revascularization in patients who are TAVI candidates. So then, may I ask, what do you see as one of the most important latest evidences in this field on coronary revascularization in patients undergoing TAVI?
Yeah, well, Ola, as you said, we know about 50% of patients undergoing TAVI have significant coronary artery disease, so it's a question we've been looking for answers for since we started doing this procedure, really. And what we've seen recently is the PROTAVI trial, which, as you know, randomized patients, 466 patients, to have either PCI prior to TAVI or PCI deferred and undertaken only afterwards if clinically indicated. And this gave us some pretty nice answers, really. The primary endpoint, I think, importantly excluded revascularization. It looked at hard, real clinical endpoints, death, myocardial infarction, stroke, and major bleeding. And what it showed was no difference in the primary endpoint at 12 months in the deferred versus the PCI group. But what we did see, when we broke down the constituent parts of the primary endpoint, was a significant reduction in bleeding in the deferred group. So, we understand that that's because we're avoiding dual antiplatelet therapy in an elderly, comorbid population where bleeding is common and problematic. So from PROTAVI, we can maybe be encouraged in taking a conservative approach to managing these patients, treating what we consider the most important lesion, the valve, and then thinking about whether we need to do PCI at a later date. And actually what we saw in PROTAVI was only just over 10% of patients had PCI to that recognized significant lesion in the year following the TAVI procedure.
Well, indeed, that maybe contrasts a little bit, or is a wrong interpretation with the Notion 3. I mean, maybe as a sum up, Notion 3 was a trial initiated from my side in Copenhagen and run in the Nordics. And I think there the main conclusion was like, yeah, you should maybe consider revascularization before TAVI because you can prevent primary endpoints. But maybe the primary endpoints, maybe you want to comment on it. Were they the same in PROTAVI, Notion 3? How do you interpret these results? Do they really conflict each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some conflict. As ever with the trial, the devil is in the detail. You need to look carefully at the patients that were included. They seem to be similar. In Notion 3, it required a greater than 90% stenosis. Yep. In PROTAVI, it was greater than 70%. So there may be some difference in lesion severity, although the data, when we actually look at the proportion with greater than 90%, was similar. So maybe more significant lesions in Notion 3. But maybe the key point is Notion 3 did include revascularization, albeit urgent revascularization, in the primary endpoint. Yeah. And we know that if we have a group of patients who are getting revascularization and the other group not getting revascularization, it's inevitable that that's going to lead to a difference. Yeah, yeah. It's equivalent to early TAVI. We randomize patients to have TAVI. They're not going to have another TAVI in the first 12 months as part of that, as part of their endpoint. But if you don't have TAVI, then a proportion of patients will. So I like the way PROTAVI excluded revascularization from the primary endpoint. But it's fair to say that in Notion 3, it wasn't just urgent revascularization. With the combined endpoint of cardiovascular mortality or myocardial infarction, there was also a significant benefit from revascularization driven by myocardial infarction. There was no difference in mortality. So there's a slight conflict there, and I think that's why we can say we don't necessarily have a definite answer to this question. But I think PROTAVI and Notion 3 together can give us confidence that we can defer PCI. And I think, what's your view? I think when we first started doing TAVI, we felt that it might be tough to treat lesions after we've done the TAVI procedure. It might be difficult to get access. But what's your view on that? Maybe that's changed.
I think two things. In fact, in the early days, why we did revascularization or recommended to do revascularization before TAVI was one, because we were maybe scared that we would have hemodynamic deterioration during the TAVI with the fast pacing, etc., with coronary lesions. To be honest, that has shown completely not to be an issue. I've been treating in the Notion 3 in the conservative arm for the coronaries many patients with really critical 90-95% lesions, sometimes proximal LAD, doing TAVI on them. never had any issue. So for the safety of the TAVI procedure, it's not a must. That's something we thought 10, 15 years ago. Secondly, indeed, with current techniques and technologies, I mean, first these prostheses get different, we get bigger cells sometimes, we are better in commissural alignment implantation techniques. So the concern that PCI after TAVI may be very challenging is diminishing a lot, and we get more familiar with it, techniques to do it. So indeed, I think in current contemporary practice, there is clearly a shift towards more treat the most severe stenosis first, whether it is your aortic stenosis or a coronary lesion, but typically the patient presents because of a critical aortic stenosis, so treat that aortic stenosis first, and then afterwards have a clinical reassessment and see whether the patient needs revascularization of the coronaries.
Yeah, that's certainly our practice. But I mean, one key question which often isn't addressed, I think, but is important when we talk to our patients, and that's the role of chest pain. What about when your patients present to you, maybe if they're just breathless, it's easy, we think it's the valve, we fix the valve. What about when they have cardiac chest pain, Ola, and they've got coronary disease and a valve? Would you still go for the same approach, fix the valve, then reassess?
That's a great question, and to be honest, that's something I said a couple of years ago myself. Yeah, if there's angina involved, not just dyspnea, I mean, we need for sure an invasive coronary angio, and if there's something to find, we should do PCI. I think that's what we said, but maybe there is some data upcoming from Notion 3 where the two arms is either TAVI, conservative for coronary lesions, or TAVI plus PCI. If we look to the amount of reduction of angina symptoms, because a significant percentage portion of these patients have indeed angina before, well, it's exactly the same in both arms, showing that the additional PCI in that one arm doesn't do anything extra on angina reduction of angina symptoms. So I get a little bit in doubt on that. I mean, and there are clearly case examples and increasing where we didn't do any revascularization, we do the TAVI and the angina actually disappears. And then the patient is completely without angina, and then afterwards, is also not really willing to have the PCI, or it's probably, we agree that it's probably not relevant to do the PCI any longer, or let's see on a clinical basis. That's what I would say.
Yeah, those are fascinating data, I must say. I suppose the only other point we should make in this context is individualizing your patient decision making. I mean, that's always important, but we know that there can be differences. Where's the lesion in the coronaries? How severe is it? What was the clinical presentation? What's the nature of the aortic stenosis? So, we can use these trials as guides, and they're giving us some really important information, but we always need to individualize that patient decision.
I fully agree, and I think with that I would also like to wrap up. Look, we get more and more pieces of the puzzle with Notion 3, PROTAVI, a couple of other studies in the pipeline still. So we get really more and more evidence, but if it really comes down to the individual decision taking for your patient, it's still, we are powered by the knowledge we have from these randomized trials, but it's still a patient-tailored decision you have to do. So thank you for your attention, and I hope you found this interesting. Bye from EuroPCR 2026.